Hi, this is Nick Slauson, and today we're going to talk about my project. Today we're going to talk navigating the ribbon, how to utilize some of the quick access tools, set some of the project options, and really do everything we need to get your project set up for success. So, last time we were in working on this, we were working on building the file for our My Project tool. So see right here, I've got the My Project file open. Once again, how we got to that is just open, browse, and located on your computer. Mine's located right here. For most of you guys, should be just on your C drive. If you're on a Mac like me, make sure if you're remotely dialed into this, you're actually saving it to your actual local disk. Like I am here, it should say client with the C $sign. That means it's pointing at your actual computer. When you go to access that, it might say something about giving your computer read and write, read or no access. Make sure you hit read and write because that's what's allowing the Citrix server to actually read and write to your computer. If you hit none, it's not going to allow you to do anything, and then you're going to say, why is this not working? And you're going to email your professor at Sunday night and in a panic when your assignment's due. Just make sure you hit read and write, and that'll take care of it for you. So let's get my project open. So let's talk about what all the different options are at the top here. So we've already talked a lot about file. That brings you to your back page screen here. Task up here. This is everything related to do with entering task into your project. So all your task related tools are going to be right here. For what we're teaching you in this class, most of your functionality will be located in this taskbar right here. Resources is for resource management. We're going to cover this more extensively in a future video. But this is how you manage your resources for the project that you assign to task. Reports, you can create custom reports here. There's a number of pre-made reports for you to access as well. Project, this is the project overall information, which we're going to come back to when we set up the project calendar here pretty quick. View, this dictates your views of what the view looks like for the project. Where you can look at how your resources are being used, what the different network diagrams are. A lot of different views here. We'll cover this one again in a future view. Allows you to change how some of the different things are viewed on screen here, where you can look at what the different bars do and control here. And then help, obviously find help. Never been a big user of the help view in the past, but there's actually some good stuff in training here. And then your context sensitive one here. So for instance, we're working on the Gantt chart here. So Gantt chart format, this is everything for setting up your Gantt chart and how you want it to look. So there's a couple tools on here that aren't always very widely used as well. One's called the quick access toolbar, which I really want to talk about. So your quick access toolbar is right up here at the top of the screen. This is a great place to put some handy tools that you'll use pretty often. Most of you will put the save one up here that's already in there, the undo and redo commands. But say there's a tool in here you're finding your workflow you're using a lot, like this scroll to task. To add something else to that, right click, add to quick access toolbar. As you can see, mine's already added up there, so it exists right there. Say for instance, I wanted to change kind of what my inspector is to, you can add that right there as well. So let's talk about some additional options that we may want to utilize when we're setting up a new project as well. So we're going to go back to that back page menu and go down to options here. Some of you that watched the last video may think some of these are redundant, but they are important to cover. So under your general option here, you've got a couple different options here. The one I really want you to look at though is depending on your time location, you may want to change the project view option. So your default view, Gantt with timeline is definitely kind of what most folks are used to seeing. Sometimes that gets changed and you'll end up on a resource view. Make sure it says Gantt with timeline there. Date format. You want this to be, there's a number of different ways you can look at it here that give you varying levels of detail. I want the day of the week on here and then the time of year as well too. So that Wednesday, 1/28/09, that showcases that full screen as well. The next thing we're going to do is let's go look at save categories again. I know we covered this in the last video, but I wouldn't be covering it again if it wasn't important. So save files in this format. If you're in my class and watching this, I want everything in MPP format. So they should all be this first one right here, the MPP. There is a 2007 format you can utilize. If you know somebody in your workflow is working on an older version of project, you can save it into that format so it's more universally read. If you do create a template file for what you want a baseline schedule to look like, you can create a template file, but generally you want your files to be saved in that format. You'll notice here my default file save location has once again reverted back to the this C user slots documents folder, which is not, again, on my local machine. So you do need to double check this every time you're utilizing project if you're remotely logging into it. So remember, that's also on your C drive, users, Nick Slauson. I do mine on my desktop here. So, okay. And that tells you it's pointing at the right location. I also encourage you to turn on autosave, whatever interval you feel like is fine. And then when automatically saving, you want to save the active project only. If you're working on multiple projects, you can definitely save them all as well too. That can be a dandy way if you're bouncing between a couple different jobs. It's not usually a good workflow practice too, so I recommend you have one open, but it can be nice if you're working on and looking at multiple. And then recommend you keep this prompt for saving tool, because that's really important, because that's going to tell you if, like, say you're experimenting with what your project options could look like or different durations or a way to arrange it, and you don't want to save that. This prompt before saving, it'll prompt up a little dialog box that'll say, do you want to save this project? And you can hit no, and then it won't oversave your work of something that you don't really want saved as a part of it. So language is pretty standard. Advanced has a lot of unique options in here as well. These are generally all pretty much set the way you want them to be right off the bat. The one you want to go down here is this Trust Center. So on the right side, if you click Trust Center settings here, it's set to not open or save files. Where is it right here? So if we go to privacy options, I believe. Oh, no, it's legacy formats. So this will say do not open, save file with legacy or non-default file formats and project. This is what's controlling if somebody with an older version is trying to send to you a file. This will allow you to open those. So if you know somebody's working with an older version, you're having trouble opening it, if you go in here and you say prompt, it's going to issue you a prompt to open that file when you open it. So I wouldn't download files off the internet and do it like that. But if you're working in an organization that has an older version, you're having trouble opening it, that'll probably fix it for you. Okay, so that was setting your project options. So now let's work on getting the project calendar set up. So if you'll remember, we want to go to the project here. Part of our project information was we'd already set the project information about the job, our start date, current date. That's all information we're just going to keep standard for this one. There's really not anything to change for that. We do want to look at changing the working time for the project though. So this is where we build a custom calendar for the project. When you first open a new project file, you'll have a standard project calendar. This is just whatever Microsoft loads into as their standard calendar. It has, your standard normal work weeks. I think it doesn't even acknowledge the normal holidays. This is where you can set up a custom calendar for whatever your organization or specific working situation is. So I recommend whenever you're doing this, create a new calendar. Don't modify the standard one, because the standard one will be hard to remember. What did we actually change in that? You want to create a new calendar. So you'll say, for instance, let's call this one CMGT 4021 standard calendar. If I can type. So there's two options you can do this. You can create a new base calendar, or you can make a copy of a existing calendar. So if you do a new base one, it's going to make absolutely nothing non-working. If you make a copy of the standard one, it'll give you your weekends as non-working. We're going to start with the standard one and go from there. So now we're working on the CMG 4021 standard calendar. So this is where you can start to adjust what you want your days, work days, weekdays to look like. So for instance, in this class, we want Christmas to be a non-working day. So we're going to go and say Christmas right here. It's as simple as just adding these items in there. That's honestly cool. I've never seen that. It's where it automatically said Christmas is 12:25 and finishes 1:25. So I believe that's because we had that on there already. If we go to details here, so we're going to say that one is non-working. It recurs every 1 day. Let's say we didn't want to work Fridays though for whatever reason. So we're going to say fall semester Fridays off. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say every Friday is going to be off. And we're going to pick a start date for that. So we started this semester on the 7th. And we're going to finish that on the last Friday of December, which is the 29th. And we're going to get the details here. And we're going to say weekly, every Friday is now non-working. So hit OK. And we can see in here that all these Fridays are now set to non-working. There's one thing that we absolutely must change though for all tasks going forward. So when you input task into Microsoft Project, there's two ways you can go about doing it. One is to set tasks to be manually scheduled, which is where you manually put the information for the task in. And the other is for auto-scheduled. We want all our tasks to be auto-scheduled when utilizing Microsoft Project. So down here at the bottom pane right here is a new task window where you can say all tasks are, it's probably dropping out of the frame here, but you can say they are auto-scheduled. So now when you put in new tasks, they're all auto-scheduled. So if we say test task 1, that automatically puts the scheduling information into it. And I know that because this little field right here that's on the default view is showing the blue arrow with the line, which means that's auto-scheduled. If you go down here, this one right here, that means it's manually scheduled and it's not putting any logic to it. So if we say test task 2, test task 3, all those are manually scheduled or automatically scheduled going forward. This doesn't mean anything to you guys yet because we haven't covered this in a video, and we're going to get to setting up tasks and linking logic to them. This is incredibly important though you make this option change at the beginning, because if you input all your tasks manually, it can be really hard to discern the logic for it. So when you add logic to it later, it automatically reschedules those tasks for you. So you can see I made task 2 a predecessor of 1 and task 3 a predecessor of 2. And once I added that information for it, it automatically updated the dates for those. If you did that manually, it won't do that for you, and it makes your schedule so much harder to use. So make sure you set that option. That should be the last options you need to change as a part of using Microsoft Project. And next video, we're going to start covering entering tasks into it. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.